is Valley News Live at 4.
We're following some breaking news for you this afternoon on an officer-involved shooting we first told you about yesterday. David Brian Donnell Jr. has been named as the suspect in the murder of the officer Ryan Bielke, the 37-year-old father of 4. Police say Donnell opened fire on Officer Bielke when he responded to a call of a suicidal male with children possibly inside a home near Red Bee, Minnesota yesterday morning. Police say they tried talking with Donnell through a window, and when he refused to comply, they kicked in the front door to get inside. Police say that's when gunfire broke out. Court documents filed just minutes ago say officers retreated into the woods, and a short time later, Donnell told officers he was sorry as they took him into custody. Officer Bielke died at the scene. He was a 6-year veteran of the Red Lake Police Department. New for you now at 4. Fargo police say they're cracking down on crime in downtown Fargo and plan to have a larger presence in some areas to do so. FPD says between June and July, they responded to more than 1,600 calls for service downtown, with most of those calls coming in near Broadway and 4th Avenue North. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley joins us live in the studio with what police are seeing and how they're hoping to fix the issues long term. Bailey?
Stacey, Fargo Police Sergeant Brent Halverson assures downtown Fargo is and continues to be a safe place to visit and live, saying most of the aggravated assault and terrorizing charges that come out of the downtown area are rarely ever random attacks and instead deal with 2 different types of people.
The daytime ones tend to be in-group fighting of people that know each other that get into an argument over, say, $20 or something. The bar closed ones tend to be alcohol-driven fights or disturbances after people are highly intoxicated over seemingly small things.
Halverson says what it comes down to with crime in the downtown area are those suffering with mental health or various substance abuse issues. He says the new police substation, soon going back on 4th Street and 4th Avenue, where the main police station used to be, will help in the long term with preventing crime downtown. Adding short term, more officers will be patrolling in and around the area on top of the 3 downtown officers who already walk up and down the streets every day. Halverson says the extra patrols will be specifically targeting those hot spots like Broadway and 4th Avenue North. Stacey.
All right, thanks, Bailey. And coming up tonight on Valley News Live at 5, hear from people in the community who are working with police to tackle these issues and why they need your help. Some of us were woken up by Mother Nature this morning, and more storms are out of the question for a few areas. Hutch joins us with a first look.
Yeah, let's get right to it. We do have a lot of activity on the radar, but most of it out toward the arrowhead of Minnesota. However, take a look very carefully with me just behind that line of showers. Here, I've circled it for you. We're monitoring this area for the risk for severe weather tonight, and the fact that it's cleared out a little bit will allow the air mass to heat up and become less stable and provide at least a better chance for some strong to severe storms. Here's what we're watching for. The area in yellow that you see here, we could see isolated tornadoes. We could have hail that could be upwards of 2 inches in diameter or larger, much like what happened in the Red Lakes area the last couple of nights. And of course, wind gusts could be a potential threat as well. So we'll monitor this and let you know the heat is what the rest of us are feeling, particularly down south where it's 105 in Pierre, Aberdeen. It's well into the 90s. Take a look at these heat index values, and folks, it's downright dangerous down near the South Dakota border. Gwinner, 115 degrees is the feels like index. And that means your core temperature can go up mighty fast because the humidity just in the air doesn't allow us to cool off. Smoky skies returning, air quality alerts for the next couple of days for our Minnesota counties, but we'll smell it here in North Dakota too. We've talked about that. 80s in Fargo. I think we stay dry. Same thing for Grand Forks. Your hour-by-hour forecast, well, brings some relief if you're sick and tired of this hot and humid air. I'll have those details here in a minute.
All right, thanks, Hutch. We're still waiting on police to release the name of the 41-year-old woman killed after crashing her car into a semi last night. That happened just before 9 at an intersection of Highway 9 east of Glendon, causing the road to close for several hours. State patrol say the victim drove into the side of the semi. The semi driver was not hurt. We have new information for you now on a crash we told you about earlier this week. We now know the name of the 72-year-old woman, Fargo woman, killed in a head-on crash Monday afternoon northwest of Alexandria. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office says Ada Nolan was killed when her westbound vehicle crossed the center line of County Road 41 between Evansville and I-94, hitting an eastbound pickup truck. 2 passengers in the truck were taken to the hospital but are expected to be okay. 35-year-old Amanda Levy of Jamestown has now been charged with 5 felonies as we continue to follow an incident that happened on Monday. State troopers say they found Levy passed out in a vehicle at a rest stop along I-94. When they tried to get her out of the car, she put the car in reverse and dragged a trooper with her car. That trooper was able to put the car in park, but now he has a broken foot. With the help of 2 Good Samaritans, the trooper was able to take Levy into custody. A sex offender will spend the next 10 years behind bars after exposing himself to a woman in Fargo. LaSamuel Richardson III was sentenced today after being arrested back in January 2019 when a woman reported a man touching himself in front of her home. He was taken into custody a few days later during a traffic stop. Police found a rifle and dozens of rounds of ammunition in his car. He was later found guilty of possessing a firearm as a felon. A man is in jail after Fargo police say he broke into a car and fought with officers last night. That happened in the 1300 block of 13.5 Street South behind the Meadows on University Drive. A man called them confronting 24-year-old Cameron Redroad about breaking into his car. Police tracked Redroad down and eventually were able to take him into custody. He faces potential charges of preventing arrest, assaulting an officer, and breaking into a car, as well as 2 open warrants. Firefighters in Grand Forks spent the morning fighting a blaze at the Bubble Laundry Company. Fire officials say it all started after a pile of oil-soaked rags caught fire. No one was hurt, but the damage is estimated to cost more than $10,000. The laundromat was back to business as usual after an hour and a half. Heads up for you bike riders out there. 3 new bike laws that were passed during this year's North Dakota legislative session will go into effect on Sunday. One law requires vehicles to pass a bicycle with a minimum of 3 feet between the bicyclist and the vehicle. The second law allows bike riders on the road to treat stop signs as yield signs. There are exceptions to this law. To read up on those, just head to this story posted on valleynewslive.com. The third allows all electric bicycles to legally use all bikeways like bike lanes and mountain bike trails. The stage is being set in the Senate for a second vote on a roughly $1 trillion infrastructure bill. Members of the bipartisan negotiating group announced they've come to an agreement on the major issues. President Biden spoke about infrastructure while visiting Pennsylvania today to push his new plan to increase federal investment in American-made goods. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
Tonight, I'm intending to call a vote to move to proceed to the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Following weeks of talks, the Senate is preparing to take another procedural vote to begin debate on a physical infrastructure package, with Republican members of the bipartisan negotiating group acknowledging a deal.
We have reached agreement on the major issues.
A previous procedural vote failed to move forward last week after Republicans say they needed more time. While lawmakers say the details of this latest deal are still being finalized, they believe they can get it passed.
I'm confident that we will be able to get it across the finish line.
President Biden said he also feels confident about the infrastructure legislation during a trip to eastern Pennsylvania.
While there's a lot we don't agree on, I believe that we should be able to work together on the few things we do agree on.
The president toured a Mack truck manufacturing facility while pushing his administration's new Buy American rule.
We're going to make the biggest enforcement changes to the Buy America Act in 70 years.
The proposed rule would require goods purchased by the federal government with taxpayer money to contain at least 60% of U.S.-made content, up from the current 55%. The administration wants that increased to 75% by 2029.
They got a new sheriff in town. We're going to be checking.
The proposed rule would not take effect until after a 60-day review period. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
The president's Buy America rule proposal is also intended to shore up critical supply chain issues for many goods, including semiconductors. In a statement, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce said it looks forward to giving input to the administration, but it believes purchasing quotas are ineffective and costly. Meanwhile, President Biden is expected to announce tomorrow that COVID-19 vaccines will be required for federal workers. They'll have to prove their vaccination status or submit to regular testing and mask wearing. The president is also expected to announce incentives to ramp up the pace of vaccinations as the Delta variant continues to spread. Coming up on Valley News Live at 4, my kind of place. That's what Carson Wentz says about his new training camp facility in Indiana. A look at his first practice and what his teammates think. Still to come.
But next, the weather happened this morning. A little bit of rain in the FM area, not very much, but just to our south where you see the yellow colors and greens, somewhere getting 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rain up near Park Rapids as well. Still not really denting the drought conditions. This heat continues. Your forecast is next.